Hello, hello. How's everybody? Come on in, everyone, and relax. Thank you for being here live. Happy solstice. So grateful for everyone's energy. So, winter solstice, we are kicking off 25, y'all. This is the beginning where we conceive anew, where we start conceiving the new year. So 24 is over. We also do a review on that, right? And this is the thing. We're all going into the root of whatever we plant this year. We're going to be part of it, feeding into that root. It's going to be so beautiful. But here we're going to tap into the light. We're going for the longest night, doing things in the darkness behind closed doors, pulling inward, recharging our battery at some level, as many levels if possible. We are renewing our faith and broadening our vision. We have so much good energy to get into for what's going to at least get us started, right? As we're conceiving and dreaming the new year into being, that's what we want to do and welcome the return of the light. Because after these 3 days of stillness, the days will start to get longer and we can start to co-create even more. Each season is 6 weeks. So I don't see too many new people here, but we'll go through the little rhythm. We do like to be reminded that the rhythm is good to tap into throughout the year. With winter, spring, summer, fall, they're ruled by Aries, Libra, Cancer, Capricorn, which are cardinal, which is action and choices and movement and lots of activity. So hopefully we've spent the last month in Sag doing our processing and we're ready to do this, because the month before the turn of the season is always processing time. And that's always Gemini, Sag, or Virgo, Pisces. So we take a little time to process before we make these choices and changes that we're going to go into over the next 6 weeks. And then after that, we hit the fixed energies. The month before is processing. The month after is anchor or release. And that's with Leo, Aquarius, or Taurus, Scorpio. So we're learning the rhythm is process, choose, anchor, or release, because once we've made choices and decisions or some changes of any kind, we usually are getting stuff out of here or starting something new. So we either want to anchor it or clear that space so that we can bring in something better and of a higher level. And so you get into this rhythm throughout the year. And I'll remind you, I don't really care about clocks and calendars as much as what time is it in the season or in the sky with sun and moon, and where are we in the cycles. The cycles have the initiation and integration or the testing periods. So we are going in to conceive. We're honoring the darkness. We're honoring the feminine, contain, nurture, protect, creating a space for it. Really, that's what, if we're going to start dreaming and conceiving things new, we want to make sure that we've cleared all the old out and we're making space and preparing for what we're calling in. So that's why they say try to carry yourself as if it's already here, because then you would be preparing. So we really want to work on our preparation. We're initiating a whole new annual cycle. We're going into a 9-year, which is very completion. And so we've been through a lot in the last 9 years. What can you wrap up and bring to a close consciously? Because 2026 is going to be a 1, and there's going to be all new energy with some of the social collective planet. And so we are truly, I know I say this a lot, and every cycle brings us new territory. But when I say new territory now, that's for real. So this is where we want to tap into this 6 weeks for pulling inward and opening to the ancestors, asking for confirmation. I do a lot of work at this time of year around asking them to confirm what was going on for 24 that I can build on, and then give me advice and guidance for what I should be going into in the new year. And so we've got all these ideas. You may already think you know what you want, but then you want to go to the ancestors and ask them to confirm that that's actually what you should be doing or where you should be spending your time, energy, and resources. So we all know that this is also the counterpart to summer solstice. So you could also think about what you start now that you would like to be popping by June, which is really when things are going to start popping anyway, because we're still in a Mars retrograde, which actually goes all the way to June. Not the retrograde itself, but we have post shadow that'll carry us to June. Venus is going to retrograde during like February, March, April, going into May, June. We'll be coming out of that. So we will reset the masculine, feminine, which is a lot of what the special alignments are tonight. When we go to talk about the activations, it's a lot of Venus, Mars action. So we've totally been redreaming already how we calibrate our masculine, feminine, how we get anything done. The feminine is our creative, contain, nurture, protect aspects, and the masculine is the part of us that can negotiate on our own behalf, get our ideas in the world, and hold good boundaries. So we've recalibrated those so much, and now they're literally going backwards, back to back, so that they're reset consciously. And with Venus, our feminine is coming through a Leo cycle where we've been trying to be more authentic and connect to our hearts and try to get rid of the extraneous so that we could focus on what we love and what we're passionate about, right? And we had to clear how we present ourselves to the world so that we clear that magnetic field and we're magnetizing differently, right? You might be able to feel that now. We're at the end of the cycle. We're in like the last 2 months of the Leo cycle where we reset what we're presenting to the world or how we present ourselves to the world. That's gotten an upgrade. Now she's going to linger in Aries, Pisces, where we're going to dream up a new identity and purpose out of everything we've done over the last 8 years. The bigger Venus cycle is an 8-year cycle of values and priorities and resources and relationships that we go through. And I tell everybody, if you stay anywhere for 8 years, you need to renegotiate, whether it's a house or a community or a job or a relationship. And so we are tapping into so many different cycles. It just depends on what your focus is for the year. I always say, pick a planet, any planet. We can find one that will support your work. And you can always raise your hand and ask me what you should be focusing on. But for now, I wanted to run through our energetic support, which is just kind of an overview of the 6-week season we're going through. But the lunation we'll go through this season will be Capricorn and Cancer, the Capricorn new moon and the Aquarius new moon. So we're moving into setting those intentions around what we want to be responsible for, how we want to move again with our feminine magnetics and what we're manifesting and magnetizing just by our energy and frequency. There's been a lot of that too coming up where it says, you know, the way we're going to get things done is by maintaining our frequency a certain way and taking care of ourselves a certain way. That's the big reset with Mars, is self-love and self-care is what we're in the middle of recalibrating right now. But for the lunar, for our personal rhythms, for our day-to-day, we might do it, because this is ancestor season, do some clearing around the DNA ancestors and call in those warriors, healers, and guides that can support you for all your goals for the new year, for 2025, and ask who can assist. And again, we're pulling inward, at least in this hemisphere, we're doing winter. So it's recharge and redream. So what do you want to commit to this year? What will be your unique contribution? How can you set those intentions now and know that you're fully supported in an annual way to make some new choices and to step out and shine a new light? So yeah, we're working on the moon. We're going to set some new intentions around what we want to commit to and what we want to build or build a foundation under this year. Mercury is just coming out of the retrograde in Sag. So for this season, it's also going to be neck and neck going through Capricorn Aquarius. So we want to think about the containers for our ideas and think about what makes you different or unique. Some of you might be getting ready to be at a place and time in your career where you need to specialize, where you need to go a little deeper on 1 or 2 things that you want to be known for, and think about those and really cultivate those ideas. Know that we're going into Mercury's retrograde this year is going to be through fire and water. And so we're going to be very creative. And so finding a place and space for you to free flow and just let your ideas do what they can and not be attached to outcome, because sometimes we're so busy, at least for me, you're so busy shaping the idea for everyone else that you don't let it flow. So we want to let it flow and upgrade everything that has some juice or some chi or some life force energy to it. Now that we have redone our thinking in Sag, basically, we're rewriting the story. So what story do you want to tell in 2025? And who do you want in your story and all that? And where do you want your story setting to be? Let's really dream a little bigger. The retrograde also helped us infuse our ideas with some more ashe and energy and your spirit, your heart, and your soul going into these ideas. Like, again, we don't have time to waste time on nonsense, right? If it's not really important, we don't have time for it at this juncture, because we're at the end of some huge cycles, micro and macro, right? So we have our little ones that affect us as individuals, but now the social collective planets are resetting as well. And what I say is let the big boys do the heavy lifting, right? I think if you've got some intentions, some of these big shifts that are affecting the collective in a big way can actually carry you along on this wave, in a sense, where you don't have to work as hard to make this happen because it's time. And when it's time, everything kind of lines up and allows you to have all the resources, to have the people on board. Everything comes together when you're organized. So there's a lot of that too. There's a lot of messages around doing the details and the little stuff we put off and things like that. So getting organized, getting grounded, clearing clutter. I always clean at the turn of the seasons, of course. That's a great time to reset the altar. Everything comes out, gets blessed under the moon, gets blessed under the sun, and gets cleaned, and then goes back. It's so great. And we do that 8 times a year for all the big stuff, but weekly on the altar, right? So you get your little rhythm for the year we want to think about. And then with Venus, like I said, she's about to go retrograde in Aries to recalibrate the identity and purpose around what you really value, where your priorities are at this time. So everyone's age and stage is different. Everyone's support system is different. So we want to use the energies for what they're good for, which is going within and strengthening your connection to the ancestors and your spirit team so that they can guide you, because the humans are unavailable for consultation. That's all I know. Everybody's going through something. So it's hard to rely or to expect people to be there for some of your big, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but the fire popped and there's been a long hiss that just ended. It was long. Oh my God. So yes, telling a new story is going to shift the values. And so where do you want to spend your time and resources? And how can you give yourself space to do more creativity and more things that just you want to do, right? Aries is all about you. What do you want to do this year? Who you are and what you want is getting an upgrade around self-love and self-care. So then how you shine your light and who you play with and work with and be intimate with is all evolving too. We can call in a new level of that for our new story, right? And know that those values are shifting in a big way with Aries and Venus. Last time it did that was 2017. So you might be able to feel into 8 years ago and what identity you launched that's now run its course and needs to be kind of upgraded and fused with new energy or expressed in a new way of some sort. And like I said, Mars is going to be all up and through here because it is retrograde. So it's slowing down, it's hitting things 3 times over, and Venus is preparing to. So back to back, our masculine feminine is being recalibrated. So you want to think about that for yourself. Like I said, how you do things internally and externally is getting an upgrade. And then the usual, like I said, these big boys are at the end of things. Well, Jupiter is going to be done with Gemini by summer. So we still got a good 6 months on that, which is good because when it goes backwards every year, that's when we really get to edit and rewrite the story. And with it being in Gemini once in 12 years, y'all, that's a big deal. We get to expand our thinking, our ideas, our networks in so many ways that are being expanded with possibilities and opportunities. So the more grounded and organized you are and the more flexible and fluid you are, then the better you can respond in the moment when things are presented. Because that's the other thing. Planning's 50-50, y'all. It's hard to plan. So we just have to kind of be ready for the energy and ready to respond when things come up. Saturn and Neptune are finishing up in Pisces, and North Node is hitting Pisces for the first time in 20 years. So this is a big 20-year cycle that is taking us back into our creativity and spiritual practices again, where they need to be central. We're back at a time very close to 06 to 08. And that was a huge time where I was in a house with a yard like this, doing fire every single day. I was super creative. I poured out and birthed KarmicTools over 06, 07. The whole thing is back, and it's doing the same thing again, where I'm feeling very creative. I've come up with all these new ideas for some classes we could do annually. It's starting to bubble and pour out again, and more ritualistic and more. Now the Orishas done gone crazy and took over my house. So I have all kinds of offerings and things to do every day. And so it's deepened. The dedication to my spirit team has gotten more central because now back then was parent mode. Now I'm empty nest. So think about how different things are from 20 years ago and what direction you took off in and how did that work out? So I had big expansion on that front end of KarmicTools. And then I had to manage parenting and working. And so I could only blow up so much. Now I can do anything I want, any way I want it. And I can travel, and I want to do more with you all in person. Like, we're great. I would love to have you all sitting here in the backyard, but I want to go around the country and do the sacred seasonal shifts. That would be fun. Anyway, these big endings and new beginnings in Pisces are big for all of us, because this is the culmination. This is the individual, social, and collective womb where we're developing the vision for what we're going to birth next, and that they all follow into Aries after that. Well, not the North Node, because it goes backwards, but we're going to move with Saturn and Neptune. The dreams and reality planets are getting together and moving toward Aries, and 0 Aries is something they call the world point. So this is one of those big cycles that goes, we could be here all night with 200, 500, 1500, 750 year cycles, these big giant cycles that are rebirthing at this time. So hopefully we can call in a new vision. I always say the cycles repeat, but the sky pattern is different, which means the energy we have access to is different, and the people around us are different, and we're different, so we can respond in new ways. So we want to do that every time a cycle renews itself. So the new life path in Pisces, it has to be kind of spiritually central, creative, go with the flow. You also have to be super mindful of your boundaries. Now, Saturn and Neptune have already been pounding on us about this for the last several years, that we need to recalibrate how we do our boundaries. Think about it. I know the young people on here are used to this technology, but the old heads here, we didn't have to do all these boundaries. Now I have to really think about who's coming into my field and from every direction. So just know that boundaries are literal, spiritual, mental, physical, emotional. Think about your boundaries on every single level possible and recalibrate and rethink how you want to go forward. And I know that some people do call me a bitch. That's why we're going to do the boundaries bitch class this year, because everybody needs to understand that boundaries are not, it's not being a bitch. It's actually doing self-preservation. It's actually making me better so that I can be with you people in a better way, whether it's my personal or professional. It's better if I have good boundaries. It's a better exchange for everyone involved. It's healthier energy management, right? Input, output. Thinking about that is a big thing, because Jupiter and Gemini has been giving us this overwhelm of input of information, whether it's from the spirit team or the world or the internet or TV or whatever y'all do. It's been information overload for sure, or our mind bending concepts are up because the world is birthing anew, right? There's a lot of crumble of what's not going to work anymore. Pluto's finally out of Capricorn, which was they call Pluto the wrecking ball that comes through and hit all the institutions and government and healthcare and education. All that's been torn down. So now we have to redream it. We got to come up with something in its place. A lot of people don't think about that. They're like, I just want it out of here, but they don't think about what to do after that. So I'm a big proponent of that, even on our micro levels with like the Venus Circle. I tell people there's a whole bunch of, classes and healers and helpers to help you release, but there's not a lot talking about how to reclaim or how to bring energy in and how to manifest and manage what you've now cleared space for. So I really do believe we should do that more consciously and pay attention to what you're letting in through your boundaries. And if we're going to talk about boundaries specifically, I always say hemp or bamboo. Super strong, super flexible, super breathable. Not brick walls where we don't know what's going on, and not cotton where it just sieves through and we're overwhelmed. We don't want that either. So that's going to have to be by your own definition, right? So thinking about what good boundaries means to you, and then renegotiating with the people closest to you, because that's who ends up needing to be re-educated, right? Is the folks who want you to stay a certain way or be a certain way or do certain things that maybe you used to do and you used to value and you used to care about, but now they're not a priority anymore. It's not really that important to you anymore. And the lack of reclaiming, rebuilding feels like a reflection of the wounded masculine we've all been living with. Yes, cinnamon. That's where we're recalibrating to. Mars is our masculine. We're redreaming how that works. How do we take our energy in the world, be proactive on our own behalf, make choices and decisions that are good for you, the individual? And because anything good for you is going to be good for everybody. So we want to really be grounding that there's no shame, blame, or guilt in the self-preservation choices you need to make at this time. And they're huge. That's the other reason to be really in tune with your spirit team, again, so they can confirm and validate what you're picking up and what you feel like you need to do next, where your boundaries are concerned or where your sensitivity to certain energies are concerned, things like that. Because again, if you're managing your input, then you shouldn't be overwhelmed. That's a way that you have to periodically, consciously recalibrate. And Pluto in Aquarius, the wrecking ball's headed toward this technology and humanity blend, right? You can't blend it all the way. Technology, I think, should be a tool and a support. It should not be running the world. If we're going to be on Earth, we need to be honoring the earthly aspects of things. And all this technology has people way out of their bodies and way disconnected from the Earth. You know, muscles are atrophying. Everything dies if you don't use your body in addition to your mind. You can't live in our heads, y'all. And that's to me, I think we should just go be spirits for all that. You know, if we're going to be on Earth, you want your body and you want your earthly experience. And so I'm calling that back in. That's part of the feminine and the darkness and the receptive that I want more of, is to be able to develop certain things and take my time and not be rushed. You know, let's just get it out now. You know, no, I want it fully developed and fleshed out and solid before I try to share it with others. So that's the general energetic support, is organizing your ideas, creating containers after rethinking your story and what you want to do for the year, and then recalibrating the masculine feminine, which is how you get any of it done. But the big alignments or activations, the biggest one is Jupiter squaring Saturn, December 24th, which is in a couple days. So we're in the orb of influence right now for the social planets going at it. So this is part of a 20-year cycle that Jupiter and Saturn kicked off in Aquarius in 2020. They're starting a new 200-year cycle where they get together every 20 years in air signs. So there's another layer of the ethereal, airy, technological, intellectual air levels of where the social things are connecting, right? This is where the social agreements or the social values are shifting from earth-based, which was very in your body, material wealth, things like that, is now shifting to more intellectual properties and things like that. So you got to find your place in that. Again, I feel old and I feel old school, that I like the earthy ways and I've just figured them out. It took me 50 years to figure them out. And now they're changing to air. So I don't know what to tell you, but if you air people are going to love it. You air people are going to thrive and prosper. And us earthbound ones, we're just going to be the base and hold you up. But Jupiter and Saturn means our beliefs and our reality are shifting. And it's important for us to do that consciously. Like I said, we've been expanded in such a way this year where we have new options and opportunities. But now what are we going to build with that? And what kind of container or, contain, nurture, and support? How are we going to do that? And what has to change so we can? Because the square means we have to grow out of comfort zone into new territory where our beliefs and our reality are concerned. So if you change your beliefs, your reality is going to change. And if you change your reality, certainly certain things you believe to be true or possible are going to shift as well. So we are going to do this consciously. The other thing about the big 20-year cycle is that it moves in 5-year increments, and 2025 is the first click. So we're at our first test in this new truth and purpose that we all kicked off some kind of way in 2020. Which is ironic because the whole world fell apart in 2019, 2020. So we're definitely birthing from the ground up. And this is the first test of whatever you've been going through for the last 5 years. This is going to show you what's real and solid. And I see Yay, so I can use an example. We've been working as an Elay for 5 years, trying to get organized. Now the square creates action, and now she's found the land. Now we have paperwork. Now we're organized. This is the first test of, was what we set in motion real? Was it solid? Is this going to grow for 20 years? Yes. So there's things that you put in motion in 2020 that are now activated for 25, and you're going to see it. And then the fact that it's a 9-year, that so many things are done, you're going to be feeling that new beginning. And so you always want to ask for the whole year of 25, is this a beginning or an end? Am I clearing or initiating? What am I doing here? Because they're going to look alike sometimes. They're going to be hard to figure out sometimes. So we want to just be asking those filter questions. Is this real or a perception? Is this me or someone else? Is this a hidden potential or a blind spot that could trip me up? So this is where we want to definitely be comparing what we're believing to what we're manifesting, because it's connected. And again, evolving and changing. So we want to do that consciously. Now, on the social collective levels, I might let Yay roll on this one. It's changing out there too. But it's Gemini to Pisces. So it's all these ideas and beliefs and boundaries and sensitivities and weirdness, because that Pisces and Gemini can be very weird in a good way some days, but in a crazy way other days. So there's lots of crazy making. There's a change going on. Oh, the other thing I looked at for the big 20-year cycle between Jupiter and Saturn was that we're going to get a chance 3 times over. Like right now, this first click of the 5 is processing. It's mutable signs. Gemini and Pisces are mutable. So we're doing our emotional processing and our mental processing, and again, growing in our consciousness that way. But it's also going to hit Cancer, Aries, which is when we'll have to make some choices and decisions. And the final hit will be Leo, Taurus, which are fixed. And that's where we'll anchor and really make some things permanent. So every 5-year click, you're going to feel movement and activity and action. And because it's happening up in the sky, it's happening to everyone. And you may have those signs activated, Gemini and Pisces, and then it's personal for you, right? So we all feeling it because it's happening up in the sky. But if you have those energies, then it gets personal. So that's the big one. That's the biggest one and the most rare one going on. And I can tell you that it hit August 19th, our prayer day, 12/24. In 3 days, you could light a candle, write a petition, a glass of water, and do something about your truth and purpose. And ask your guides to give you some information on how that's changing or evolving or going to its own natural next level, right? And then the final hit will be in the new year, when Jupiter will have moved into Cancer and Saturn will have moved into Aries. And that happens June 15th. That's a different kind of prayer day, y'all, because for this one, we're still processing. But when it comes time for Cancer, Aries, we're going to be making choices that are very personal, that have to do with you, the individual, and what you care about. Ooh, and the fire popped on that one. You're going to be good to go. If you don't do good processing, though, you won't make good choices. So we have to do the processing now so that we can make good choices then. And that's, again, June. Like, it's going to be a big summer solstice, y'all, because we're recalibrating so much right now that it's all going to come to, let's say, birthing by June, I think. Now, the little things we got to deal with, which are not so little, actually. Mercury and Sag squaring off with Saturn 3 times over. So like I said, it's still in its zone. These alignments I'm talking about now are just for the next 6 weeks. So it's mostly January that we're talking about. But for Mercury squaring off with Saturn, it's been in a process. And because it's squared off with Saturn, it's squared off with Jupiter. So Mercury's in the game with everything I just talked about, which means we have to process on our micro personal levels, and how that change in Sagittarius really is feeding into the bigger changes we're going to do with our truth and purpose. We had to shift what we believe to be true or possible before we could shift the truth and purpose. So that's what's been going on, and it's going to get anchored going forward. But there was, oh, I know, I keep forgetting to say, we got to bring the Virgo in consciously. That's the one place nothing's there. There's no planets in Virgo right now. So we want to bring that in consciously. That means be organized, take time out, do some intentional solitude, tend to your body, tend to your personal needs. We're going to have to really think about that. That's not going to be automatic. So we want to bring that in and schedule downtime when and where you can, and time in nature, because that's going to help it all. Any time under the sky in nature is going to help with your processing. Because we are earth beings, we need all the elements to help us process. And it's not good to just stay in your mind with it. But while Mercury is doing this T square with Jupiter, Saturn, we're changing our thinking in so many ways. And we're gaining access, I think, to some new ideas, new creativity and whatnot. The other one on January 2nd, 2nd and 3rd are pretty big energetic days. But Vesta's what is sacred to you, the individual. It's what we focus on, sometimes to the exclusion of other things. But she's also the Virgin, where we're whole unto ourselves. So we're not only going back to that, but she's lingering in Scorpio for 10 months. Or at least a 9-month baby process. So she's going to be leaning in our Scorpio department, asking us to make that area of life sacred again. So wherever it is for you is where you want to make things sacred. And at the same time, you're connecting to the ancestors. We're connecting to our karma, our DNA karma mostly, and then things that we've created along the way that we're answering for now. All of that is getting recalibrated, and we want to purify and distill back to its essence to make things sacred again. So now with Scorpio, what's sacred? It's our power, our creativity, our sexuality, our resources. Again, they're not just important, but they're sacred. And Vesta's going to lean on that. And if she does that, it's going to automatically touch our Taurus, Leo, Scorpio. So those fixed areas, you just want to check in and see, you know, if it's kind of run its course and needs to be energized with some ashe so that it's sacred again. Okay. And get back in your groove that way. And maybe more rituals and practices and things for you that way would be helpful to honor Vesta. Venus in her retrograde process, she hits Pisces January 2nd. So technically we're going into pre-shadow, even though it's kind of overlaps with the last month of the old cycle. January 3rd, Mars retrograde in Leo opposes Pluto. This is the second of 3 times. So we have lower will and higher will doing a little push-pull right now, trying to get integrated and rebalanced and recalibrated on some level. So who you are and what you want is already changing. And now we're going to put Pluto on the other side, which means it's permanent. We are permanently shifting some shit. I'm just saying. There's no looking back, and it's rooted in your self-love and self-care. That's a big piece of it. If you got big dreams, they're not going to pop off if you're not healthy and grounded in your own body. And so there's been a lot of reminders, not the least of which is the last 7 years of Uranus and Taurus, trying to wake us up to how important the body is for us. So Mars opposed Pluto is a huge recalibration of your will, your personal will, identity, how you make things happen, right? How you actually make things happen, those choices and decisions that take your life in different directions. Then Mars is going to go back to Cancer, do more of a process with Neptune in Pisces, Uranus and Taurus. Like we're going to have a special call January 16th just for what Mars is doing. So just know that Mars is mixing it up with the social collective. So again, while we're recalibrating self-love and self-care, we're also thinking about what the bigger stories are going to be, or the bigger communities that we might want to tap into and contribute to, the expansion of our unique contribution and how that's going to be expressed going forward. That's going to be a big part of Mars's whole recalibration, because it's bringing in bigger cycles, bigger activations, and more long-term projects. We need to think about that. Like what happens once you do flip the script on self-care and self-love, then what? So yeah, and then Venus is mixing it up with the crew too. So Venus is initiating new cycle with Saturn in Pisces 3 times over. This is part of her retrograde. Even though she's going backwards in Aries, she's going to end up going direct in Pisces. And every hit between her and Saturn is Pisces. So we are getting a chance once in 30 years to truly anchor some new values and priorities around our spiritual practices, around our health and well-being, around our daily rhythms and routines, and just our personal life. It's like, take it back. Since COVID, it's like the world's been in my business. I don't like that. So I want to take that back, where my schedule is my own and I'm not really making decisions based on what the world is doing. You know, I want to make decisions based on what my household is doing. So it's shifting it to make it more personal. And the better we do with that, and the more strong our foundation with our spiritual practices and our team, and being able to rely on our community in certain ways, that is going to allow you to do the expansion that's definitely coming in 26. You're going to get to practice in 25. But 26 is a new ball game. It's going to be a 1 year. It's going to be a whole new beginning. What else we got? So Venus initiating a new reality with Saturn. That's huge. It can bring some benefits, and we can be literal. We can manifest with that. That's Saturn, baby. So we like that. We can manifest a whole new purpose or reality, however you define your terms. We're choosing new roles and responsibilities in a way. That is going to be huge going forward. And then Venus in Pisces will also link up with Mars in Cancer. But, you know, like, it's crazy. The timing has allowed them to be backstage together, reorganizing things as a unit. And I like that. A trine is ease and grace. So Venus and Mars are moving through a process where, again, because they've changed individually, now they have to kind of work it out together. So how does that work? But it's going to be with ease. It's not going to be a challenging way of trying to work it out. It's a trine. It's going to be ease. But right now, it's be January 25th, Venus to Mars, then April 6th, and still Pisces Cancer. But the last hit, May 22nd, will be Venus will have moved back to Aries and Mars will have moved back to Leo. So again, they're still crisscrossing over each other's retrograde places, connecting backstage in a way that's going to make us stronger going forward as well. Now we get to the good stuff. The divinations were pretty juicy. I have a couple of things. Every turn of the season, we have a seasonal reading. So there's something you can get for yourself. I'm going to cover that. And then the divinations are the guidance specifically for what we're going to talk about for the next 6 weeks. Now, I like the reading and I change them every season, right? All 8 sacred seasons have their own special questions, and usually it's a different card deck that I pull from. This one uses the Osho Zen deck. It's a 12 card reading. This would be the one you could get for yourself. And it's just around questions for winter. So receiving nurturance, we want to replenish and fortify the self. And I got healing. Now, this reading is in there. It's in a PDF and it is for the community. So this one's for everyone, and it's a sample of what you could get for yourself. So we all have to work on healing as we replenish and fortify. That's a big component. The second card we pull is around respond. How can we feel and choose action from heart center? And we got participation. So again, with picking and choosing when you want to interact with other people is going to allow you, let's say, richer experiences. Okay. Be wild, honor your true nature. And I got breakthrough. And if any of you know the Osho Zen card, oh wait, I brought them. So I finally remembered to keep the cards out. So healing it's the king of water in the Osho Zen deck. And participation, number 4 of fire. So you can look up these in your own deck. And this is how we can respond by participating and not hiding. When we be wild, breakthrough. This is what I was saying. If you knew this deck, she's breaking through all this fiery energy, but she's major arcana number 11. And so this is when you've just had enough is enough and you're ready to get to the next level. But also this breakthrough with your true nature, where you might have been hiding or holding back in some kind of way. And then begin, commit, and take one step. This one is the 5 of fire, totality. So the next step is to commit and then be fully committed. Don't look back. Just be very, very deeply committed. Protect your time. Maintain healthy boundaries. We got maturity. So see, that's changing and evolving where we can do that better. That's the Ace of Rainbows. Stay with it. Be consistent and dedicated. This is number 21 in the majors, completion in this. So basically, we've already been in a process of putting our pieces together in a certain kind of way that is culminating in this 9-year, I think. And craft your real work. Go deeper and specialize. And we got new vision. So that's what I mean. Everything is supporting you. Like if you already know what your truth and purpose is, you can be doing that, but you're going to do it at a new level now. And then if you don't have your truth and purpose on lock, then you're going to find out this year what that's all about and how that can work. Now, lay out nourishment, contain, nourish, protect, and maintain, right? This is all the creative babies and things you do. This one is courage, number 8 in the major arcana. This is the flower growing through the sidewalk crack, so we just have to be brave and push through. Some of it is non-essential and is not related to you. Just keep pushing past that and reach for that light. With additional insight, we got understanding. This one's a big one in this deck because you see how the cage is open. And so it shows where we might be holding back on ourselves in certain ways when we really are free and we're thinking we're not free. You're going to have an awakening. And then above and below, I always do as additional guidance, because above is how you navigate in the world externally, and below is how you navigate internally in private. And we got awareness in this deck. You see how that veil is melting off and the little face is coming through? This awareness, you're going to start to see things so differently that, like maybe other people can't see and all that kind of nonsense, but with eyes to see and ears to hear, you're going to be fine. And then internally and privately, we're going to follow our guidance and our angels. This is the 3 of rainbows in this one. It's called guidance. So we're going to really be attuned to our spirit team so that we can hear them when they say stop or go. Okay. So that's one. That is the actual reading one. But now for our divinations for winter solstice divinations, they're pretty juicy. And for these, I use the Mystical Shaman Oracle Guidebook, which is Alberto Villoldo, Colette Baron Reed, and Marcela Lobos. We love that. This is the new one. I'm going to be working that one in my Venus circle. And the black deck. Remember this one? The animal deck is called the Wild Mystic, and they're black, silver, and gold. And I really like those. So what I did is I took parts of the reading to do our divinations, the ones we could go deeper with, which is renewing the creative fire, receiving nurturance, preparing to respond, and then the shadow. So it's 4 cards and then 4 animal assistants. And we picked these animal assistants because there's spell work in there that I want you to, have an idea about what you might want to do. So renewing the creative fire in 2025, we got the Wild Woman is number 62. So these have numbers. We like that. And this is from Alberto's deck. And this is for our renewing the creative fire. When the Wild Woman dances into your reading, she reminds you of the essence of authenticity and freedom. Deep breath. Divested of all social constraints and cultural conformity, the Wild Woman holds up a mirror to your essential self, the true essence of who you are and what you're meant to become. She is a reminder of the bright light within each of us that gets dimmed by the restrictions imposed upon us by the expectations of society. She reminds us that in order to be fully present, we must uncover the light and let it shine brightly, regardless of the perceived consequences. Ashe. The invitation says, when the Wild Woman comes to dance in your reading, you are invited to shine brightly and to know that your true self is being called out to engage the world. This is a symbol that your long-held dream is beginning to take root and wants to be expressed. Your authentic self doesn't fit in a box. It needs the freedom to shine. It's time to have courage and step into the light. The Wild Woman says, shine brightly, dance with abandon, be yourself, and let the Great Spirit decide what happens. You'll be happy you did. Ashe. The medicine says that excess for its own sake is a sign of imbalance. This is a warning that you may be trapped in obsessive thinking or behavior, looking for release in places that will never provide it. Ooh, deep breath. Let go, lest you become the hungry ghosts of Chinese Buddhist lore that can never be fulfilled. True release comes from trusting the fluidity of life, understanding that just as a river needs its banks to flow through, so too do you need boundaries around your thinking and behavior. Now is the time to simplify, be mindful, and connect to the light within. Deep breath. The animal assistants, now we got some 4 main team assistants. This one's Spider, to create. This is the animal medicine that will assist with renewal. This card represents creativity and weaving one's imagination into being. By weaving our individual stories into words, music, dance, art, or any creation of our own making, we craft a web of ourselves for others to view. Spider card urges you to use your creativity and vision to explore your inner self and express it honestly. Druids believe that Spider is a weaver of the written word. The Druid alphabet, with its crossed lines, may be found in the web of a spider. The web may be seen as interconnecting stories and pathways, or a woven spiral from the past to the future. Many cultures see the spider as a weaver of fate and fortune. The spider card may be a message to create your own destiny. In West Africa and Caribbean folklore, Anansi is a spider with a human face who represents creativity, stories, cunning, and wit. Largely formed from oral tradition, stories containing them were passed from West Africa to the Caribbean islands during the transatlantic slave trade. His ability to outwit his oppressors and gain the upper hand made him a powerful symbol of slave resistance. Spider may symbolize the power of words and stories in fighting injustice, which is going to be huge this year too, y'all. Shadow reading says creative blocks or stagnation. It is the cobwebs that form in your mind when it is dusty and littered. It may also be urging you to try to find your creative voice once more after it has been lost in the mire of, ooh, it popped on that one, in the mire of other people's demands. Make art for yourself and no one else, and try to rediscover your footing on the delicate web of creativity. Yes. So this one is the one I told you has all the extra goodies. Element is earth. The flora is carnation, ginkgo biloba, mistletoe, and vervain. The stones are alexandrite, celestite, zincite, and opal. Ooh! Hello. That was a big one. The spell work helps with writer or artist block, which I think we all are, one or the other. Luck with a publication, encouraging creativity and imagination, and luck with a performance. So if you're getting back to your true self, like what Wild Woman was representing, right? And becoming more authentic, Spider is going to help you be more creative with that and to do your renewal. The thing I think about Spider is it builds its web and allows everything to come to her. But I think that we want to set ourselves up so that we magnetize more than we're pushing the river, let's say, right? Now, guidance around receiving nurturance in 25, and we got the moon. So the moon, and there is the, I'm getting fire on me. Wow, I'm glad I saw that because I totally didn't feel it. Okay, so for receiving nurturance, it's funny, we got the moon. So we're back to, I think, self-preservation, honoring the new rhythm that you're creating and things like that. In this deck, it's number 37. The essence says every 28 days, the moon manifests a steady progression from darkness to light and then back again. This phenomenon in our skies has a powerful impact on our human psyches. It offers us the certainty that after periods of emptiness and darkness, there is a light waiting so we can be reborn into a new phase. This calls to mind a native African prayer to the moon. May our lives be renewed as yours is, which makes me think of Yeye's full moon burden burning. Give me your bright face and take my sad face. The moon also has a strong influence on the ebb and flow of waters on Earth. This same power, in turn, affects human feelings and emotions and mirrors their rising from or hiding back into the unconscious. So we want to, again, watch for self-sabotage and unconscious habits versus conscious practices, right? The invitation says the moon spends equal time in dark as it does in the light of the sun. And now it comes to remind you of this balance. Have you been too focused on outer achievements, productivity, or social engagements? Or have you spent too much time hidden from the outer world, not wanting to interact or show your face? Meditate on the significance of the moon cycle and let it gently guide you out of your bottomless depths. Head back to the world of outer expression and connect with others. Let it help you make time for yourself, your feelings, and your essential human and spiritual needs. This is huge, y'all. The medicine says the card calls you to go on a journey of renewal, just like the moon does every month, so you can get unstuck, whether from a specific situation or life in general. For this, you need to make time to be with yourself without the distractions of modern society and have the courage to look at the unwanted or unembraced parts of your being until you arrive at a place of resolution. Shamanic lore explains that the finest treasures of humanity are hidden where most people are afraid to go. Deep breath. So how we receive nurturance, we follow the rhythm. We rest when we need to rest. We move when we need to move. And Bear is so good at that. Bear helps us with those cycles. In this deck, it's rest. So that's going to be a huge part of it, like doing nothing, being receptive, allowing the messages to come to you is what we do in the winter. This card represents the winter months and essential rest. In nature, hibernation is a part of survival for many creatures. The body is calmed for slumber through the cold months. Metabolism is slowed. Physical activity is reduced. The fire is talking to me. Deep breath. It is a tranquil time of silence before the song of spring. In today's busy world, it is important to take time to rest, recuperate, and reinvigorate yourself. That's what Mars retrograde is helping us do too. Unlike Heron, who inspires psychological rest, Bear urges physical rest. This card tells you to reserve your energy and take a moment to look inward. On the bear's forehead is the symbol for the wheel of the year. Rest is a crucial part of the yearly cycle. So it's got the wheel on her third eye, and there's a polar bear in that gold circle on the bottom. But we like this deck too. Humanity's need for rest has caused us to create holidays, vacations, and seasonal celebrations. This card is a reminder that we all have our own cycles of being to which we should listen. Okay, you know I'm big on that. Whether you are a night owl or an early bird, if the darkening seasons affect your mental health or if you menstruate, cycles can affect your mood and way of life. This card is a reminder to listen to your own needs and rest when required. The shadow reading says there are many forms of hibernation, generally caused by weather, lack of food, or seasonal cues. Bears enter a form of torpor. While their bodies use minimal energy, they are still able to wake if necessary. The bear can be a symbol of readiness, able to rise from slumber and spring into action. Many cultures also see the bear as a representation of power. Warriors, such as the Scandinavian berserkers, don bear skins to frighten their enemies or harness the bear's power. The bear at rest is a coiled spring, ready to act if disturbed. This card may symbolize a well of untapped power, a simmering temper, or burgeoning potential. The element is earth. The flora is lavender, chamomile, passion flower, and valerian. The stones are rose quartz, hematite, malachite, amethyst, howlite, and smoky quartz. The spell work is sleep or dream work. This is what Bear can help with. Calling on reserves of energy and strength. Self-care, winter rites, and a Yule ritual, which is what we're doing, can help us receive nurturance. The only way we're going to receive it is if we slow down and open to receive it. So now, guidance for preparing to respond in 25. Oh, we're going to have to look at this one. This is the Rainmaker. She's pretty amazing too. She's making rain. And her number is 42. The essence says the Rainmaker is the master of manifestation who can call on the elements of nature to serve the greater good. When the power to co-create is used with integrity, great beauty and benefit flows for all. When this power is used for personal gain only, everyone suffers. When the earth is parched, the Rainmaker calls the waters from the heavens, and all that is dormant in the fields and in people's hearts springs to life again. The invitation says the Rainmaker is calling you to create something new from the elements that are already in your life. So this is how we prepare to respond. Be sure you work with what is and not with what might be or could have been. The seeds that have been silently germinating in your heart will burst forth ready for the sunlight. Do not hold back. Put all your chips in the next roll of the divine dice. The medicine says, recognize how you are co-creating your own world. Nothing is happening out there without your involvement. Remember that the world is only mirroring back to you the condition of your love and your intent. So charge these within you before you take any action. Do not take life personally. That's going to be a huge one in the new year. So work with what you've got. Put your elements together in new and different ways, and you'll create something new. And we got Wolf for animal medicine that will assist in our ability to respond. In this deck, it's Instinct. This card represents instinct and trusting your own animal self. It is a reminder that humans are grounded in the natural world and should respect our senses and gut reactions. The wolf is an integral creature in many North American indigenous cultures. The observation of the wolf as a wanderer made them synonymous with pathfinding and trailblazing. And see, if you're putting your elements together and responding to the energies this year, you're going to be able to do this too. And Wolf will assist with the pathfinding and trailblazing. The Wolf card symbolizes following your instinct and finding your own path through the wilderness. In Norse mythology, Fenrir is a giant wolf raised by the Aesir gods who kept him magically imprisoned. The unbridled instincts were difficult to tame and could not be manipulated by the gods. This card urges you to trust your own instincts in the face of those who might tie you down or attempt to overpower you. It is the underlying wilderness of the wolf inside the domesticated dog. This card might also be seen as symbolic of a longing to be free from a commitment or obligation. So you have permission for that too, y'all. As we are ending, stuff is ending. Let's wrap it up. Let them go. And open that space for new and better people to come through. Deep breath. I love it. Shadow reading says the myth also tells us that one day the great wolf will break free of his chains and swallow everything in his path during the final days. The shadow reading of the wolf card is a warning against suppressing our instincts and keeping our emotions bottled up lest they explode. The element is earth. The flora is wolfsbane, lupine, or blue violet. The stones are sodalite, amethyst, and charite. And the spell work that Wolf can help with is connecting with the natural world, lunar magic, seeing through deception and manipulation. We're going to definitely need that. That's the shadow of all that Pisces too. Choosing a path in life. So the new year, whether you can kick it off or not is one thing, but you have to make a choice and you have to start setting things up accordingly. Now, the shadow to be aware of, okay, here's another juicy one. The ghost dance. She looks like a ghost. And it's number 22. So the numbers were pretty interesting too, Kimberly. I'm going to expect you to come forward and give us a little message. We love that. So the shadow to be aware of is the ghost dance. The essence says the ghost dance of the American Plains Indians united the spirits of the living with those of the ancestors to bring peace to the world. When the ancestors are honored, they bring harmony to us. When we hold them responsible for all that is wrong with us today, they haunt us. Honor the spirits of the ancestors and receive their lessons and gifts. This includes honoring your own past lives. The invitation says the ancestors have a message of healing and a powerful medicine to offer you. Create a sacred moment at your altar, light a candle to them, and let their wisdom infuse you. At this stage in your life, you are done repeating their tragic stories, Ashe. Step into the abundance that is offered to you, receive the gifts of those that have come before you, and write a new story for your life. The medicine says if you are trapped in a vicious cycle of nostalgia, mourning a lost youth or opportunities missed, it is time to make an altar for the ancestors. Collect a few photos, light some incense, offer sage, and open the windows of your house to release them to their destiny and to the wind. Be wary of being snared in a relationship with someone from a past lifetime, as the people we loved or hurt have a way of reappearing in our lives. There is no learning for you there anymore, I say. So the ghost dance, the shadow to be aware of is those, like I said, those unconscious habits or slipping into DNA karma and repeating negative patterns of your family. We don't want to do any of that. And go to the ancestors, find out what's happening. Don't be a victim. Snake is going to help us with the ghost dance and with watching the shadow, because we are shedding a skin. There's a certain part of us that is staying the same and is central and not changing, unlike the butterfly that takes on a whole new form. Here, we're just shedding a skin. But in this deck, the snake is associated with rebirth. This card represents the cycle of rebirth and eternity, while the salamander represents the regrowth of a part of oneself from destruction and chaos. Snake signifies a natural rebirth of the whole self. As snake sheds and emerges clean and new from the sheath of dead skin, it reminds us of the constant cycle of life, death, and rebirth. We shed our skin and hair daily, and the remnants of our bodily self become dust on the air, in the earth, and the water. This card asks us to consider our place in the grand cycle of things and reminds us that change is a natural part of life. Gnosticism adopted the Egyptian symbol of the snake biting its own tail into its teachings as a symbol of infinity and continuity. The symbol was originally associated with the union between Ra, the ancient Egyptian god of creation, and of the sun, and Osiris, god of the dead. This union of life and death becomes a symbol of rebirth. This card may symbolize the infinity of time and its repetitive cycle. It expresses the need for renewal, change, and evolution in order for the cycle not to be constantly repeated. So that's the shadow, repeating mistakes, repeating negative patterns. The shadow reading says, unlike butterfly, whose rebirth requires a great change, snake's rebirth is superficial in comparison. Whilst they shed skin to grow, they remain a serpent beneath, as opposed to a new being entirely. They are still inherently the same and unchanged. So the shadow reading of this card may be warning you of shallowness, small-mindedness, or difficulty seeing another point of view. The element is earth. The flora is hawthorn, lily, daffodil, crocus, or snowdrop. Stones are unakite, angelite, and jasper. Spell work is past life regression, funeral blessings, birth blessings, spring equinox ritual, and garden magic. All right. So we are completely supported for this season. We have covered the special alignments and divinations. Kimberly, do you want to come forward?
So I was going to be really quick and just mention two of the numbers, what I saw. So the first one, the 62 being an 8, we're in an 8 year right now. And so when I saw that, I instantly thought about what are we being asked to review? So when it said spider create, making art for yourself, I even asked myself, in what way was I led to write or to be creative? What happened over the last year that would have brought that creativity up? Any blocks, but that whole make art for yourself, I'll say that I had to catch myself this year. I wanted to get into more writing, more all that kind of stuff, but then I instantly wanted to go from writing to competing in writing. Yes, I instantly heard, hey, you're connecting back to your artistic self. Listen to yourself. That's what you're learning to do first. Don't go straight into what I called man's view of success in writing. That's not what I'm doing right now, right? So that was one of them. Then the next one, I'm not going to do all the numbers, but who knows, maybe I will. But so 37, which is a 10, which is a 1, which is new beginnings, right? And so I actually thought about that as 2026 is a 10 equaling a 1, right? I love that someone put 2025 as year of the snake. So 10 equaling a 1. So I look at that as the first one said, hey, look at your past. This next one, it is kind of a, hey, look forward. There are new beginnings that are ahead of you. And I really said, okay, yeah, there's new beginnings ahead of you. But in order to get there, you have to rest. Yeah, kind of like you said, I love that you mentioned the heron is psychological rest and the bear is physical rest. Because, of course, this came up in the Venus call too, that we need to rest. We're being told repeatedly, you need to rest. You need to sit down. You need to let these things come in. Of course, a 3 and a 7, kind of going with before that, 3 is a creative number. That 7 is the number of rest. And so we're being reminded once again to slow down, to rest, to renew, so that we can be ready for all this newness that's coming up, right? So we can be ready for the new. The 42-6, I was going to go deep into that, but I just have to sit with that one a little minute because there's something else that I'm being told to look at. Like I said, the role. Because like I said, I'm looking at the homework here. I call it the homework. And so that was the whole thing. And 22 is the master architect of peace. And so I'm really big on, hey, what are the peaceful structures that are coming? And I instantly think of boundaries where, in order for me to create peaceful structure, there needs to be boundaries. There need to be healthy boundaries and helpful boundaries. And then I also thought about when it mentioned shadow and how, I know you're going to probably talk about Al here in a minute, but I was looking at the Mad Libs for Al. The first one was like, when did you get in touch with your shadow? And I was like, oh, but definitely how that's part of that review, getting in touch with the shadow. So that's what I have for numbers and how the divinations hit me. I have to sit with them some more. But yes, so thank you,
baby. So grateful. I love Kimberly's insights. She always helps me pick up on something else. Cinnamon, you want to contribute?
I'm mostly in receive mode, but while Kimberly was talking about all the numbers, I was remembering that every year I do the tarot calculations so that you figure out what your tarot card is for this year. So when I did the numbers last year, I think I had the Judgment card at 20, and then this year it's going to be the World card, but then that also reduces down to 3. Anyway, because we're in this rest and dreaming state, I thought it would be a good idea for personally each of us to look at the tarot card that's guiding us in this year. That is the head of the snake eating the tail. We're right in the in-between of the Ouroboros, right? Ending and beginning. We're in that in-between. But if you're lost about what the in-between is, then go look at your tarot card for the year, because I have never found that to be wrong. It always helps me as I go along, gives me an anchor, especially in a year like this when I don't know, sometimes I don't know what is up or down. And it's meant to be.
Pisces is good for that too. Remember the fish are swimming in opposite directions.
Yeah. And then I will always, when you were saying, like, I don't know what us Earth people are doing now that all Saturn and Jupiter is meeting in the air, I'm like, we're reminding people to be in their bodies. That's
it. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. Cinnamon's our body person. So she always helps us stay in our body. Thank you, baby. All right, y'all. Well, thank you, everyone.